In sexual reproduction, we have fusion of gametes from both male and female source, the sperm from the male, and the egg or ovum from the female. Again, these would be haploid, produced by meiosis. Egg cells are characteristically relatively large cells. In fact, some of the very largest cells that there are certain types of egg cells. And it's characteristically not able to move on its own. It's large because it's got a lot of nutrients stored in it to provide food for the developing young. And there's variation. Some eggs have a lot more nutrients than others. Again, it's one of those standard trade-offs. Do you produce lots and lots of eggs? If so, there's only so much nutrients that the mother can put in with each egg. So the chances of any one doing well are lower, but there are so many, the chance that at least one of them survives is relatively high. Other eggs are bigger, have more nutrients, yolk, things like that in them, and that one, okay, that's more work. The mother can produce fewer eggs like that, but each one of those eggs has a better chance of survival. So it's a trade-off. Either way, however, the eggs are characteristically much bigger than a sperm. The sperm is largely just carrying the genetic information from the male. So you've got a nucleus and not a whole lot more cell around it. There's some mitochondria because it needs energy to be able to beat its flagellum to swim and reach the egg. And once they get together and fuse, you get a zygote or fertilized egg. Fusion, 2 haploid cells, so now we're back to 2 copies of each chromosome, diploid. And then animals are typically multicellular, so that will divide to produce the cells of the new individual. Egg and sperm get together. We have 2 main options. External fertilization is found in a number of things living in the water, where the female releases eggs, males release sperm, and they float out there in the water, and hopefully some of them happen to run into each other, and you have fertilization that way. Now, of course, some degree of coordination is important. Typically, these animals will release the egg and sperm at a particular time to increase the chances that they will get together. Internal fertilization, of course, it's characteristic of anything living on land, but also a number of things in the water. And in this case, characteristically, the female does not release the unfertilized eggs, but holds them inside. And sperm can either be released into the water by male, often in some sort of packaging, and then these packets are captured from the water by the female and brought in to meet up with the eggs. Or you could have some way where the male and female actually get together in order to transfer the sperm over to the female and have fertilization inside the female. Internal fertilization then allows further protection of the egg, say building an eggshell around it, or maybe even the mother providing some degree of feeding or care for the developing young. Do have at least a couple of types of things that have essentially internal fertilization with the male instead. This is found in things like seahorses, where the female lays eggs, the male gathers them into a pouch and then fertilizes the eggs inside the pouch, and the baby seahorses actually develop inside the pouch for a bit before they are released. So amphibians typically have external fertilization. So the male frog, for example, will be croaking in most types of frogs. Probably knows this time of year, whenever there's a humid night. And that's advertising to try to get a female to come over near him, and then they will together hop over, find a puddle or pond or whatever, and as the female lays the eggs, the male is releasing sperm into the water that fertilizes them. Up on land, however, that doesn't work, and so you have internal fertilization characteristic of land animals. Again, also found in a number of different water animals. There are several patterns. Of course, familiar pattern characteristic of mammals is to have separate male and female. But there are a variety of animals that have some version of hermaphrodism, meaning that sexual reproduction occurs, but one individual is able to produce both the egg and the sperm. How this works, there are several different possible patterns. Sometimes animals are capable of self-fertilization. This is true generally of tapeworms, for example, and various others here and there. More typically, you have two different hermaphrodites getting together, or sometimes even more individuals, and so one individual will be fertilized by a different one. Ones that are able to self-fertilize, if they can have a different individual instead, they tend to prefer that because that provides greater genetic diversity and likely to be better success for the offspring. But you also have some that are hermaphroditic, but not simultaneously. And so one individual can't self-fertilize because it's only producing one or the other at a particular time. So, for example, you have a protandrous hermaphrodite, prot, first, andros, man. So this means that they start out male and then later become a female. You also have protogynous hermaphrodites, which start out as a female and then end up as a male. There are even things that switch back and forth. For example, the standard European edible oyster at the start of 1 year will be either male or female and will produce the appropriate sperm or eggs. And then it will switch over and become the other, produce the other gamete. So it's not fertilizing itself because it's only producing one at a time, but each individual produces both. Protandrous this means all males in the species are immature. Might feel a little sorry for the females there. Basically, this works in a situation where, well, again, sperm, they're smaller, they're easier to produce more of, so a smaller individual can more readily produce plenty of sperm than plenty of eggs. And so there's an advantage to producing the sperm when you're smaller, and then switching over to the eggs when you're bigger, able to invest more in producing those larger, more nutrient-demanding cells. Protogynous typically happens when being bigger is an advantage to the male, and that tends to mean that the male is actively trying to compete with other males and impress females. And so a smaller individual, not able to compete very well, will be better off than able to reproduce, got more chance by being a female. And then as it grows, eventually it may change over to be a male. This is found, for example, in certain types of reef fish. A male is able to chase away other males and dominate a harem of females, and so is reproducing. The females have a male there so they can reproduce. If something happens to him, then the biggest and strongest of the females will become a male, and then she's the one, well, used to be she, now he, that is dominating the group there.